Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. And we have a long weekend. It's a holiday. So, if you've been following this series, this is where we left off. We got the bear painted. He's going to be the little peeker. And here's his paws. I'm also going to have him holding a honey stick with some honey dripping off of it, which I still need to paint the honey drip. But I'm going to glue this off camera. Because he's holding something, I've created an extra spacer that we're going to need to glue together and then glue on that circle there. And I want this to be underneath. So that's going to be on the same level as that second spacer. So I'm going to glue this off camera just to make sure it's going to actually work. If not, then I will not be doing where he's holding that stick. So, but we've got our banner painted and glued, and I did only 4 this time. Once I assemble it, and I feel that I might need, an additional one, I will go ahead and add it to the file. So I'm going to go ahead and move these aside. And we'll get started on some other elements of this design. What I want to work on today is painting this beehive. Hello everyone, good morning. And the color I'm going to use, and unfortunately it's retired, is a color called Camel. It's like a yellowish brown, very light. It's what I used if you watch my other painting series. I did the beehive this color as well, and I really liked it. So that's what I'm going to use on this. And this one's going to have flowers, and of course we have all kinds of bees that you can glue onto this. Now this one will actually have 3 flowers, and I created a welcome sign. So those are the changes for this piece. It is just a gloomy day here in Ohio. It's been like that for all week. So I'm just going to use my makeup sponge and tap on the paint. And I will, when you get to a score line, you want to kind of tap lightly over it. But if you happen to get paint in there, all you have to do is use a little tool that you can get from Dollar Tree to dig out those score lines. But if you get them in the score lines, you definitely want to dig it out as quickly as you can. I was going to come on yesterday, and I got really busy. I got some orders. I've been on a designing spree. And I've got a lot of designs that I need to get cut and painted and listed. So a lot of things in the works. But I'm really excited about what I've got going on, and I think you folks will like it as well. And this is going to take a couple coats because, as you can see on the screen, it's very blotchy. Like I said, this is like a yellowish brown. know from past experience, yellow can be a little testy as far as coverage goes. And then also with that honey stick, the color that I painted my fence is the antique white, a blend of antique white and some buttermilk and little browns here and there, dry brushing. So I don't know how well that's going to stand out. I might have to turn around and actually paint this honey stick a honey brown, make it a little bit darker. Because I don't want it getting lost in the background of the fence, so. Some girls I work with are going camping this weekend. And it's tent camping. It has been damp and cold and rainy. Ugh. I would not want to be tent camping. Because there's nothing worse than a damp cold. Hey, Lori. Did you watch that podcast at all? I watched bits and pieces. Holy smokes is all I'm going to say. Oh, boy. And she's gone. There's a lot going on in the community where I live, and it's not good. It's actually quite sad. Very, very sad. It's a shame. And I wasn't really fond of the color I chose to paint that other beehive. So I think what I'm going to do this time around, because I'm going to have a honey jar that's red, same as last time. I think I'm going to just paint these flowers red with a yellow center. That way this design is just going to consist of the golds, the yellows, the browns, the reds. Everything will just kind of match and flow. And this might actually take 3 coats. Because it's pretty blotchy. So I'm hoping to get this done. I won't probably get it done this session. Hopefully tomorrow, so I can get started on another design. And I'm undecided. Do I want to start painting my new stuff? Because I have over 10 different inserts created for my new interchangeable that I haven't released yet. Now, I didn't put score lines on this as well for where the sign is going to go. And like I said, I have 3 flowers, and they're pretty sizable. I might only just do 2. I won't know until I start putting it all together. You know, when it comes to designing, at least for me, you know, how it looks on the screen and how it is when you start painting, putting it all together is 2 different things. So you think it may work, but then it just doesn't. So, you know, painting these and putting it all together is part of the testing process for creating files. And I might, because this is such a bigger piece and everything's spread apart, I might actually highlight the tops of these little sections where I didn't do it on the other one. So we're going to let that dry really good. And we'll start painting these flowers. And my go-to color is Country Red. And I think with the welcome, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some honey brown and use a wet wipe and just apply the paint that way. That way it gives it a little bit of a wash. And I might even do a little bit of sanding on it as well. And then what I'll do is I'll dry brush the black plum in the center. And hopefully I can get a really light coat of that. I should look and see what actually their colors are. I want to say Heritage Brick is the shading color. And like I said, the highlighting color is like a pinkish. And I tried and I didn't care for it. Yeah, I didn't care for it. And I might even just dry brush the tips of the petals as well, just so it's very minimal. All right, we'll stick that aside. All right, we're gonna start off with a little highlighting. And I'm gonna use buttermilk. And what I'll do is I'm going to start off highlighting. Still feels kind of damp. Around the tops of these. I think. Quick sanding. So I think what I want is the highlighting to be pretty minimal and narrow above each one of those sections. And I'm missing my line. Probably what I should do is start down here. That way I'm not sticking my hand in a wet area. Boy, I'm really missing my lines today. I love this paintbrush that I'm using to float. I feel it's a very comfortable brush to hold. The only negative I have about it is it doesn't hold a whole lot of paint and water. So when you're trying to float a bigger area, it just won't, you can't do the whole area with one loading of the brush. But I really, really like this brush. And it is a brush that I got from Hobby Lobby. Too much water on my brush. Because I didn't sup up the water. And then what I'm going to do is take a bigger brush and go around the outside edge. So what I'm going to do is just keep bouncing back and forth between everything. Because I'm going to need to let my brush dry. Because you definitely want to clean out your brushes in between paints. And they'll be wet, so... I'm going to take this Neon Fiery Red. Kind of just dry brush the tips. Just to brighten them up. Another key thing to dry brushing is you want to keep your brush moving. You don't want to stay in one area and continue brushing because you're going to get a blotch of paint eventually. So try and keep your brush moving. Just don't sit there and focus on one spot. See how I just keep going back and forth and then moving it up a little bit further. It's still applying paint, but just minimal paint here and there. So I'm not getting a glob of paint in one area. Also, too, the key to successful dry brushing is making sure that when you apply paint to your brush, you wipe the majority of it off. Dry brushing is about applying minimal paint to a surface. It's just a delicate way of adding color, a different color. And then if I wanted to brighten up these edges, I could go back and float And that would make the edges even brighter. Okay. Okay, I think I'm going to stick with that wider brush. And we're going to start shading this. I'm going to use Cocoa. And I definitely will be going back and darkening that up and widening it up, making it more wide. And see, by the time I get to the end, I'm out of paint, I'm out of water. And then what happens is your shading fades. What I'm going to do is start in the middle this time. And the reason being is there's more paint on my brush when I first start out. Then I'm going to go back and start at the beginning and then meet up with that. And then what that does is it kind of evens out the shading color. It makes it more uniform. So that's a little trick for you. For floating highlighting and shading that you can do is after you've done, you know, one pass, start in the middle on the second time around. And then go back to the beginning of what it is that you're trying to float. And then just meet in the middle. And it'll make it look more even, especially with the color. And this one doesn't really matter because I'm only going over to the door, stopping, then I'm reloading my brush. And part of me is kind of thinking I need to widen some of that highlighting. So I think I might go back over it. I think I just want it a little bit brighter and I want it a little bit wider. So I'm just going to stick with the same brush with hopes, ooh, that I can get the results I'm after. Yeah, I can't float above that line for anything today. that just brightens it up a little bit. And I'm kind of walking the float up a little bit as well. Because I don't know if you can tell in the camera, if you watch my paintbrush, you see how much paint I have on my brush as I start out. And this is a smaller area, so it might not be as noticeable. But as I continue to keep floating, you'll see the paint start disappearing. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's where I'm at now as far as paint. And I think I want a little bit more on the very tip of this. I want it to be a little bit brighter, minus all the water. But that just has more detailed in depth as far as I'm concerned. I think that top layer just needs a titch more shading. Okay. All right, good enough. See how well this is dry. Not too bad. So I'm going to put some black plum. And try and dry brush some shading. Now what I'm going to do for this is I'm actually going to start in the center where that circle is. And see how, by me just staying in one spot, how I have a big glob of paint there? But then I'm going to just kind of, still doing teeny tiny circles, go out in a circular motion as well, trying not to go past those score lines. I just want to add a little bit of shading. And I will go back and darken that up some. But if you're unsure if you've gotten enough paint off, I recommend starting in a discrete area like that and then just kind of work your way out. Also, brushing side to side helps distribute the paint as well. But I just have a tendency just to stick with my circular motion, and then I will go back and brush side to side. All right. You know, since I have some of that cocoa out, and the sign isn't that big, I'm just going to use the cocoa. And a wet wipe. And then that just shows the grain of the wood. And I am going to go around and shade around it. So I will do that. I'm going to put just a little bit more. I want it just a little bit darker, not much. And what's nice is by the fact that I use Baltic birch plywood, you can actually see the grain of the wood in there. All right. I think I'm actually going to take some golden straw this time around and do the centers of these flowers. Because the red is just so bright and darker. So I think that's a good color. Then of course I will highlight them with probably some light buttermilk, and then do a little shading with some honey brown And maybe even put some raw sienna in there. Just using regular black for the opening of the beehive. I'm going to go over my lettering as well. Okay. You know what? I'm going to take this cocoa and I'm just going to go over this stick. Just to darken it up. And since I still have some cocoa out, I'm just going to go ahead and shade this golden straw with it. I'm just looking to darken up that yellow a little bit. About like a third of the circle. Because my water is a mess, and this is a little bit darker color, I thought I'd do this before I go down and empty out my water. And while I'm at it, I'm going to float some shading of milk chocolate around that sign as well. And I'm just going to use the technique, go down one side, go the opposite side, let it dry, and then go down the shorter areas. Shorter sides, rather. And we'll edit, I think I'll actually even use this color to darken this up. Yeah, this was a good shading color for the golden straw. So I'll have to remember that. I mean, all I'm looking to do is just darken up those edges a little bit. That's it. Nothing major. Okay. And while I'm at it, I'll just go ahead and float on the bottom of this and get some more color. And it just changes the color a little bit. Take some of that buttermilk and highlight. Well, I got a fuzzy somewhere. And I'm using that to highlight the centers, just to brighten them up a little bit. All right. I'm pretty happy with all that. Well, that's too much paint. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and empty my water, and I will be back shortly. But yeah, those are nice centers for that, for those flowers. I like it. So I'm going to empty my water. I'll be back shortly. Hopefully you stick around. So I think what I'm going to do, instead of using the graphite to dry brush on here, I'm going to use a color called Neutral Gray because I want that to be a little bit lighter than the graphite. And I'm really going to brush this paint off. But I'm just going to kind of dry brush a little highlighting on this door opening, whatever you want to call it. And if I end up not liking it, I'll go back over it with the black. But I just want that one side to be a little bit lighter. I'm keeping my brush in one area, which means I'm getting more paint off in the area that I want. I don't know if I'm going to like that or not. I think what I'll do is I will take and float that color around that one edge. Just what that'll do is it will clean up the edge. Well, that's not really what I wanted, but this might be a do-over. I'll let it dry and see. That's kind of not really what I wanted. So I might just stick with a solid black this time. I have way too much water on my brush, but I'm trying to move this paint around because I'm not happy with that result. Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with black. I'm just going to stick with a solid color this time around. And I really like that yellow with that red, the golden straw. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint this sign with the golden straw. And hopefully it doesn't take too much paint. And then I'll shade around the edges. I'm not worried about the score lines where the lettering is, because that's just for placement purposes only. But I do want to be careful with those little dash marks. I use the golden straw a lot. That's the color I use for my scarecrows, hands and hair, and I'm just kind of tapping off the paint and going really lightly over these little areas. And because I'm barely touching, I will have to go over it numerous times. Getting goobers. I'm probably going to have to sand that a little bit because I do have boo-boos here and there. Alright. So let's go ahead and start gluing a little bit of this together. And I think I made bigger bees. I mean, more bees than I probably needed. And I might later on go over this and do the whole Morse code embellishment. Then you just have to decide where you want the sign. I did not put score marks on it because you might not want the sign on there. So I'm going to wait until I get my flowers glued, and that's way too much glue. See how that's moving? Too much glue. You don't need a whole lot of glue. A dot is all you need. Because you might not want to use all 3 flowers. You don't have to. But I was kind of thinking on the lines of something like this. But I also have this sign. And this actually has 2 bees on it as well. And these will be sticking off to the side. And then there is a bee that goes on his ear as well. So, and that's going to be a smaller bee. And you can cover up some of these little dashes. So you don't have to have it right at the end. But I think that's pretty good placement. I might just, I think I like it up there in the center. And I'm trying to keep the dark part of the centers towards the bottom. maybe these the same size. Let's see. I think one's bigger than the other. Yeah, I think I'm gonna use this bigger bee. Whoa. See how that moved around like that? Too much glue. And then pressing down on it makes it move. Too much. But that's where we are. I like that. And I think the red flowers is just a better choice. I'm gonna touch up this black paint a little bit. Right there. And like I said, I might do a line and a couple dots. It's not my thing. It really isn't. But that's that. And I think it's adorable. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm going to sand the back of this a little bit because I did that painting and it's a little too tight to suit me. So you kind of want to watch when you're painting the slots. Okay. Let's go ahead and go over this a little bit more. Change off those high spots. And I'm going to go ahead and shade around this. I'm going to start off with the cocoa. And I'm going to do just like I've always done before. I'm going to do alternating sides. And then I'll glue the lettering on this. And then really all we're going to have is the jar of honey. And I might need to go over this with the milk chocolate. We'll see. I want this shading, I think, to be a lot more calm than what was around the banner. I wanted that a little bit wider, but yeah, we'll let that dry really good and go on with the other one. And I'm going to stick with the red because, like I said, I want this basically red, yellows, blacks. Definitely have to clean my fingers off. And then I'm just back to using the country red. And this sticky board will need redone before I start another project. And honestly, I'm going to paint that exactly. Oh, I got some more lines. Go figure on that. I'll clean those up here. I'm going to paint that exactly how I painted the other one. I might not finish it on camera during this live, but if you look at my interchangeable B sign, you will see exactly how I painted it. Too much water. And I don't know if you can see that in the camera. One, you know, my water's dirty already, so, you know, you get these lines. And two, when you don't take out the water, you get the lines. So what I'll do is after this dries, I see exactly how, you know, where these lines are. I'm going to take my sponge with some golden straw, and I'm just going to lightly go over those line areas, and it'll get rid of those lines, and you'll never see them. But you want to be careful that you're not going too far over into your shading, because then that'll just stand out like a sore thumb. So that's how you get rid of oops moments when floating, highlighting, and shading. And what I'll do is I'll take a smaller sponge. I'm just trying to make sure I get all this red paint off my fingers, because the last thing I want to do is touch this surface and transfer that paint. That'll make it even worse. I'm just going to take a little golden straw and try and clean this up a little bit. I'm kind of just going back and forth a little bit to try and blend that paint as well. There's very minimal paint on there, but it's enough to fix the issue. And then if you happen to get the paint too far over, like this might end up being too far over right down in here, what I'm gonna do then is I will go ahead and just refloat that area. But I think it'll end up being okay. We'll see. You just gotta let it dry a little bit and kind of see where you're at. And plus too, it's right in that area where I kind of was very gentle with the applying of the paint, because I didn't want to get in my score lines. Alright, we're gonna do a little highlighting on this. And it's pretty gentle highlight. Then I'm gonna highlight up here and make it a little bit brighter, because I am going to go in and shade on the inside. So you can't even really see. So, if you get too much water on your brush and you don't get it taken off when floating, and you don't have a mop brush, or you wait too long to grab your mop brush, there are ways to fix those watermarks. So don't think all is lost if you don't get to them in time. And what I'm doing is just watering down some black plum. And applying it to this one area of the jar. And since I have this, and this is still a little bit wet, I'm gonna go ahead and paint this honey sign or label, whatever you want to call it. I'm using, it's cocoa. And I will go around and shade it with milk chocolate. And I'm just kind of emphasizing that highlight a little bit that I did. I'm going to take some black plum and just kind of shade around underneath this line. And I think I'm actually going to put a little shading on the bottom of this jar as well. Just to darken it up some. Well, that's pretty dark, but it is what it is. A lot of that's going to be covered up, but I think what I'm going to do is take a little bit of that country red and just go at the very top here. Just to cast a little highlighting. Get that milk chocolate, go around the sign. Okay. Then I'm going to take the antique gold and paint these two drops of honey. And honestly, this is pretty well done. All right, I'm right over the 2-hour mark. But I can get this done. So while that's drying, I'm going to start gluing on some lettering and some bees. And I just busted that son of a gun. So it's fixable and you'll never know. So I think I'll start with that one first. And because I busted this, and I'm try my best not to mess around and take a chance of chipping off a piece of that wood, I'm gonna start with this letter A. Get it where I need it to be. I got glue on my fingers, so I'm going to be painting it anyhow. I should have quit while I was ahead. Should have quit while I was ahead today. I will have to tap over this. with some paint. When it comes to lettering, whether it's cursive or just a regular font, you want to be careful when painting and handling it, especially if you're putting it on a board like I do. Because when you try to remove it, if you're not careful, it will snap. These letters are delicate. And even though this glue is clear, as you can see by that piece that I just painted, if you get glue on these pieces or anywhere, that glue, it will leave a white mark. Okay. Good enough. Alright, I still have some of that light buttermilk. No, it's actually buttermilk, so I'm going to use light buttermilk. And highlight these drips of honey. And I'm rushing and I'm not getting paint off good enough. Doing a Durley today. And Durleys are not good. Then I'm going to take my cocoa and just go at the top here. I might even do some milk chocolate. I think milk chocolate would be a better choice. It's a little bit darker. Kind of not liking that light buttermilk. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some golden straw and lightly go over it. Alright, let's glue this together. And then when I get bigger pieces like this, I like to put my glue on the surface, only because, you know, if I happen to drop it, then I end up getting glue where I don't want it, and then you end up getting those marks that I'm talking about. I think I'm going to go with a teeny tiny ERB this time. So I'll do a bigger one there. And then I'm just going to do a teeny tiny one there. Maybe I can get away with this one. I think I'll do this one. I'm actually covering up part of that one score line. And that's where we are. It might be a little bit too much yellow. Maybe I should have painted this a different color now that I look at it. But it is what it is. If I decide to redo it, I will, but not too bad. So, all right. Well, I will get this put together off camera and post a picture of it when I'm done. And of course, create the listing for the SVG file and the DIY book kit. And no, before I forget, I am running a sale. It's going to end at midnight on Monday. It's 20% off. And I don't know the next time I'll be running a sale. So you might want to take advantage of that while you can. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye.